A judge has blocked the Trump administration's move to ban Harvard University from enrolling international students. The Ivy League institution challenged the ban, describing it as unconstitutional. Now, the U.S. government has accused the university of fostering violence and anti-Semitism and working with the Chinese Communist Party.
In the US town of Cambridge, Massachusetts, the opposition to Donald Trump is visible in plain sight. As the home of Harvard University, residents here are feeling the effects of his policy decisions firsthand.
As I bike to work every morning, I put up a sign or two or 5 or 10.
The government's decision to stop the Ivy League school from hosting foreign students has had a chilling effect on campus.
I'm not affected by what's going on, but my colleagues are. And I don't know, it's just stressful, but kind of like just have to not panic and just roll with the punches.
There's definitely been worry among my international friends. A lot of my friends who are international are just trying to keep their heads down, not get involved with any protests or anything crazy because they don't want to have their visas revoked.
No one who would be directly affected by the ban was willing to go on the record. But the university is fighting back. The school's president filed a lawsuit to fight the order, saying we condemn this unlawful and unwarranted action. It imperils the future of thousands of students and scholars across Harvard and serves as a warning to countless others at colleges and universities throughout the country who have come to America to pursue their education and fulfill their dreams. For now, a judge has temporarily blocked the ban, granting relief to the roughly 7,000 international students who make up a quarter of the student population. But the threats don't only affect the international student body itself. Everyone we spoke to underlined the huge implications it would have.
I think it would be a travesty for the university, probably.
I feel like the best part of my experience has been hearing all the different perspectives of people from around the globe, and to deprive us of that is to deprive us of a truly Harvard college experience.
I think that Harvard would simply not be Harvard anymore without its ability to bring together the best and the brightest from around the world.
In just a few days, Harvard will hold its annual commencement ceremony to celebrate its graduating class. Many students from around the world will share this honour, but it's unclear whether the same will hold true in 2026.
And our correspondent Benjamin Alvarez-Gruber has this update from the Harvard University campus.
So these have been tensions that have been growing for weeks now. The latest is that a federal judge here in Boston granted what the University of Harvard says was illegal by the U.S. government. So they stopped this bid by the Trump administration to revoke the ability of Harvard University to enroll international students. This was, of course, expected by people here at the university, so we can expect that this will continue also as the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem accuses the university of what they say is fostering anti-Semitism. The big question is if the University of Harvard will back down and what that would actually mean also for other universities who have seen similar pressure from the Trump administration. What the Trump administration wanted to see within 72 hours that they gave the university are videos and are pictures of students taking part in protests here. So it's also quite hard to talk to them, as many are afraid that there might be retaliation if they speak out about this publicly.
A Harvard student, Shreya Mishra Reddy, is from India and has pursued a higher education in the United States. She's due to graduate from Harvard's Executive Leadership Program in July. Welcome to DW. Fingers crossed for your graduation. How did you hear about the president's ban?
Thank you so much for having me. I first actually read about it on a news pop-up which came from CNN. And then I discovered that there's a ban that's been put on Harvard now saying that it can't accept international students anymore and that the current international students will have to transfer or risk losing their legal status. So that's when I read about it yesterday in the middle of a work meeting, and I was completely taken aback. My heart stopped for a minute. Completely terrible piece of news.
OK, because this affects you directly.
Yes, it does. I'm all set to start the last module of my leadership program on the 28th of May, which is 5 days from now. And then I was supposed to be back on campus in July in Boston. And I don't know if those are options for me anymore and if I'll be allowed back on campus because at the end of this module, I was supposed to become a Harvard Business School alum. I was looking forward to that. To say the least, basically, my entire family, everybody has been really proud of the fact that I've made it to Harvard Business School. But now not to be able to go back, not to be able to earn that alum status will be extremely, extremely devastating for us.
And what's the university telling its international students?
So right now I'm yet to hear back from the university, but from the press releases that I've seen, it stands by its international students. It issued a statement earlier today in the morning saying that Harvard is not Harvard without its international students. And I really, when I read that, I had goosebumps. And for an institution like that of such prestige to make such a bold statement and coming to stand by the students or the international students, it was a huge deal. I had a sense of relief reading that. I know that a judge has also put a moratorium on the ban that the administration issued. So I'm just looking to learn more at this point.
Right. So the judge, as you say, has put this moratorium on the Trump ban, but you get that this administration's not going to let this go, right?
Absolutely, which is why I've been asked a few times today if there's a sense of relief amongst the international student community. And honestly, my answer would be no, because this is far from over. This has been going on for some time. This is also not the first time that a crackdown is happening on the international students. Harvard is one of the first institutions to basically been given a list of demands that it's refusing to bow down for. But it's definitely not the first one. It won't be the last. And especially considering the fact that because this is not over, we don't know what's going to happen 10 days from now, a month from now. So as an international student and not just a student at Harvard, everybody in the country is equally worried, not knowing what the next steps are going to look like for their futures.
And so we have a White House spokesperson describing Harvard as, and I quote, a hotbed of anti-American, anti-Semitic, pro-terrorist agitators. Is that a description you recognise?
Absolutely not. So I want to say that if there are reports of something like this happening on campus and you do have proof of something like this happening, it's all right to call it out. But for the entire international student community at Harvard to be branded as that and to be put in those buckets, I think it's a little unfair because a lot of the students or most of the students don't subscribe to those ideologies or to all of the ideologies. And I understand that it's a concern for security, and I'm glad that the administration is bringing it up for the safety and security for everybody on US soil. But having a blanket ban for international students when most of them basically just want to come to US, study peacefully, learn so much, give back to the US community and go back to their home countries, I think it's a little unfair to have that ban in place.
So if this ban ends up being upheld, what will you do? What are your options?
Honestly, I really don't know. If it ends up being upheld, it'll just be one domino that falls, and the biggest one, because if this ends up happening at Harvard, there's no saying that it won't happen in the rest of the international in the rest of the universities that are accepting international students right now. And at any given point in time in the US, in any academic year, there's more than 1 million international students on US soil. For all of them or for none of them to be able to come to the US in years to come, I think it will be a really big deal for the entire international student community, as well as a huge loss for US as well, because right now US is looked at as a technological hub, as a research hub, and if that ceases to be the case, if international students are no more welcome, they will probably stop coming and they will go somewhere else with all their talent and skills.
But even if Harvard ultimately wins this case, you'll still be living and working in a country that seems to be becoming increasingly hostile to foreigners. Is that something that you've experienced? Have you seen this antipathy growing?
I have seen that. So there was a student who reached out to me on social media saying that they experienced something like this in an apartment that they live in, where a neighbor of theirs said that, "Oh, how long are you going to be in the country for now that Trump is cracking down on international students?" So that was really hard for me to hear. But even apart from that, it feels like we're not welcome anymore, and the general sense in the entire international community is that of worry and uncertainty. And if a lot of people, including myself, if our current STEM OPT is expiring, even though we were looking for alternate visa routes like talent visas to be able to stay back in the US and to contribute effectively to the economy, that probably looks like not a viable option at this point for us.
OK, thanks for talking to us. We wish you well. Harvard student Shreya Mishra Reddy, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Well, Cathryn, Clüver Ashbrook is a senior advisor with the Bertelsmann Stiftung. That's an independent foundation here in Germany promoting reform processes for a future-oriented society. She's an expert on transatlantic relations, and her master's degree in public administration was awarded by the Harvard Kennedy School, where she later spent 11 years as executive director. Welcome to DW. This is shaping up to be quite the confrontation. How far do you expect this to go now that the judges are involved and backing Harvard?
Well, I still expect this to go further because we know this Trump administration will not rest. Harvard is the center of its cultural war. On universities, on the history of the United States, we see a similar game played with other cultural institutions, including major museums, major cultural icons in the United States. But Harvard really is the pinnacle because it, as one of the first universities, stepped forward to halt the Trump administration's ambitions, their requests to be able to weigh in on things like faculty promotions. This latest effort, the request was to not only know who all the international students are, but to know all of their individual coursework to effectively overstep privacy lines in confrontation with America's oldest private university. And I am not surprised how quickly the judges have moved to halt this idea coming from the Department of Homeland Security. But the Trump administration is certainly plotting on how to continue its attack on the nation's oldest educational institution.
So, as I understand it, something like 27% of Harvard students are from overseas. How far will the effects of this ban be felt if the government actually wins this confrontation?
Well, it's certainly a dramatic move. Not only would that take away from the intellectual richness of the university, with students effectively being turned away, their offers being rescinded if this were to come through. But you alluded to it. There are graduate schools at the Harvard Kennedy School whose business model it is to truly also train the world's next leaders, the world's public policy leaders, like the Harvard Kennedy School. 56% of its students are now international students. In the college, at Harvard College, a lot of the international students are full tuition paying students. So it's also an attack on the business model of this type of American higher education. But of course, a lack of intellectual richness would be the immediate consequence of Harvard students, international students being asked to transfer to other universities if this idea from the Department of Homeland Security would in fact be enforced. I know that Harvard will battle tooth and nail. We as Harvard alumni have just heard from Harvard's president, Alan Garber, that is the intention of the university. But I guarantee you it will be extremely disruptive for students, parents making plans beyond graduation, but also ready to send their students, in some cases across the Atlantic or Pacific, as we head into the fall semester. This might not be fully clarified by the time international students want to head back to campus in late August.
OK, so your view is there, clearly passionately and sincerely held, but not universally shared. We've seen institutions like Columbia give in to this.
Well, it's every private institution's prerogative to respond to administrative pressures in the way that they see fit. You also see that in general, since the Columbia decision, a large consortium or set of consortia have come up among leading universities, not only, by the way, the Ivy League universities, but the so-called Big Ten schools have also banded together, and other universities in suing the administration on a number of other things, including the funding of research funds. All the universities have made their case what the vital role is that they play for the innovative capacity, the public health capacity of American public life, but beyond that, global public life, frankly, particularly when it comes to things like combating infectious diseases, finding cures for cancer, for ALS, and those kind of things. So I think Harvard spearheaded it, but you see many universities falling in line behind Harvard University.
Thank you for talking us through that so clearly. Cathryn Clüver from the Bertelsmann Stiftung. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Professor, thanks for making time for Deutsche Welle.
Thank you. I'm pleased to be here.
So what would it mean if Harvard would use the international student body?
It would be a tremendous loss for Harvard. The international students are almost a third of our student body, and they are some of the brightest and most talented students we have here. They're valued members of our community. I think more importantly, in some ways, it would be a tremendous loss not just for Harvard, but for the United States, because we are so fortunate that we get these students from all over the world, some of the most talented students in the world that come here to study and to contribute to our society and to our economy. And if they leave, if we lose them, then we lose that advantage for the United States.
How is this topic discussed, like in your professor body, if I can say so?
Professors are extremely worried about this. We're terrified about it in many ways because these students, they're not only our students, but they're our colleagues. They're people that contribute to our research, to our knowledge, and we'd be losing members of our community. It's something we've never faced before, and it terrifies us.
As for now, a judge stopped the ban. Would you say there's already some damage done?
Oh, of course. I mean, if I were an international student, and I think we see evidence for this now, if I were an international student, I would think twice about coming to study in the United States. There'd just be uncertainty. There'd be this potential that you could have your right to be here, even though you studied your whole life and did all the things you're supposed to do, that you could have that suddenly taken away from you. And I think future students will think twice about coming and studying here. And that is a tremendous loss for Harvard. It's a tremendous loss for the United States.
Why is President Trump, focusing on Harvard so much? What do you think?
I think that Trump is focusing on Harvard because he's trying to send a message to higher education more largely. And the reason he's doing that is that Trump operates as an authoritarian, and authoritarians attack universities. This is what they do. They've done it, authoritarians in other countries have done it, and Donald Trump is trying to attack universities because universities are centers of dissent.
What can you, as professors, what can the academia in Harvard do to fight his ideas?
Well, I think the most important thing we can do is to try to make the case to public opinion, that to the American public more largely, that this is something that needs to be resisted. Because as I mentioned, Donald Trump is acting as an authoritarian. And when people do that, when leaders do that, it's really the public that is able to push back on them. And we need to convince the American public that Harvard, even though many of them don't care about Harvard, that Harvard is someplace they need to think and care about and try to defend, because they're ultimately not defending Harvard, but defending civil society more largely.
We have really hard time getting students who might be affected by this law immediately or directly, very hard time to have them talk with us. Can you understand that?
I can, and I think it's worth reflecting on just how sad of a situation that is, because this is the United States, the place where supposedly freedom of speech is something that's ingrained into our Constitution and our system of government and system of laws here. And the reason these students don't want to talk to you is they're afraid of retribution by the United States government. And that is something that is antithetical to American values, that students are afraid of punishment by their own government. And I understand why they feel that way, and it's something that is a sad statement on what's going on in the United States right now.
The commencement is just about to happen. How do you look forward? What do you think? Where will Harvard be next year, this time?
Well, look, the commencement that happens next week is always a time when Harvard comes together as a community. It's a big, diverse place, and we come from all over the world, and we bring a lot of different perspectives and a lot of different ideas, and yet we all come together for that celebration right at that time. And I hope at that time, that's some time we can think about the fact that we are here to support our international students and to say they're part of this community, and we're going to stand up and say no to what the Trump administration is doing. And unfortunately, we're only a few months into the Trump administration, and we have a lot of years of this left ahead of us, and we're going to have to keep reminding ourselves that we need to stand up and push back in order to defend people like our international students.
Thank you so much, Professor.
You're welcome. Thank you.